Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you for watching the video. Today we're going to talk about in terms of how to use Finviz in terms of trying to find stocks for swing trading, right? So as you guys know that I usually try to find mid cap to large cap names. So let's get into it in terms of how to find swing trades, right? When you talk about swing trading, right, you want to find two types of names. Number one is stocks that have actually gone down in value, and you want to buy if you're a value buyer. If you have a stock which has gone down in value, you want it to bounce and then come back up, right? The other thing that you might want to do is you want a stock which has gone up, and then you want to find a retracement and try to buy it on the way back up, right? So two kind of different types of stocks that you can potentially find a swing trade. So let's get into it. So we'll go on to the screener tab on here on finviz.com. So we want to find stocks only, right? Because that's what we want to trade, stocks only. Now, depending on your volume, right now, for me, I usually like to trade stocks over $300,000 or 300,000 shares traded. That's an average volume, right? That's an average number of shares traded in one particular day. Generally, the stock is trading under less than 300,000 in volume is usually a pretty thinly traded name. So you don't want to get involved in those names. So generally 300,000 shares is usually a really good place to be at, right? Now, the first I will try to find stocks which has gone down dramatically in volume. So we're trying to play an elastic effect, right? When I'll take a look, I'll show you what I really mean by that. The other trade that you really want to do is try to find average true range, right? So you want to find something which has range, right? If it has range, you know what? You can potentially make a lot of dollars on it. If the stock is moving 10 cents, 20 cents, you probably won't even make any money on it, right? So average true range really is a measure of the difference between the high and low. So let's say if the stock is trading at $101 today, and during the day the high was 102 and the low was 101, so that's a $1 move, right? So that you want to find big movers, so you want to find stocks which have a big average true range. So generally over 75 cents is really a good one. Now in terms of trying to find stocks that have really been beaten down, right? So if you want to find stocks that have been really beaten down, you want to find stocks which has below the 200-day moving average. Right, that's one of the criteria. You also want to find stocks which is below their 50-day moving average. Right, so on the longer time frame is stretched out, on the shorter time frame is being stretched out, and if you wanted, you can also do below 20-day moving average. Right, so it's below the 200-day, below the 50, below the 20. So we know the stocks has been really been beaten down. Right, so I'll give you an example of what I really mean. You pull up this chart. So in the longer time frame is below these moving averages, right? So you see the 20 and 5 over here, but if you throw on different moving averages, let me show you over here. You can do the 200, you can do the 50, and you can do a 20-day moving average, right? That's what you can do. So all moving averages are down, but what you see on here that the stock is, even though is below the moving averages, it's not really stretched down, right? So going back onto the screeners on here, so once again what we did was using industry stocks only. We did average volume over 300,000 shares being traded, stocks below the 200-day moving average, below the 50, and below the 20. So now you know what, the stock that you'll be fine will probably be pretty weak. What you also want to do is you want to use the RSI. It's a relative strength index, right? So if you see the RSI on here, it's going to show you in terms of how is the price strong or is the price weak, right? So I try to do which is oversold, right? Which is stocks which has been very, very extended, right? So right now you don't see anything just being that oversold, over 20. So I'll show you what really RSI really means, right? If you find this stock over here, right? So RSI is this one over here. Once the stock has gone too low, right? In this one, the RSI went down as low as 10, right? So I mean that's pretty low RSI. If it goes the lower the better, the lower the better. So because the lower it is, the higher chance of a snapback. So you see the stock is being under all the moving averages, the 20, the 50, sorry, the 200, the 50, the 20. So it's pretty stretched, and you see low RSI, which means the stock has potential for a bounce. So right now, based on all these parameters, it doesn't look like there's a lot of stocks which has really that overstretched yet. Right, even oversold. You know what? I'm using the Finviz Elite. So what we can also do is, hey, you know what? You could put on a maximum of 10. So nothing on there, right? So it means the stocks have actually, most of the stocks have actually bounced back up, right? So let's see, over 30. So you don't really see a whole bunch either, right? Let's do it like this. Right, so if you see something like, say, SIG, right? With SIG, you go on interactive, you see the stock is below 200, below the 50, below 20, and the RSI is pretty stretched down. Over here, it was down as much as 13, and then it had this snapback, right? The higher the chances of probably the stock being lower is better. One thing that you can also do is, you know what, you can try to see, hey, you know what, based on, forget about the moving averages, maybe you want to do based on just oversold levels, right? There's still nothing on there, right? So if there's nothing on there, then you know what, it really means that there's most of the stocks are in the last 2 days. If you look on the futures, right, so you see the most of the stock, but most of the index, the Dow Jones, the S&P, the Nasdaq, I mean the market had this push up, so it means you don't really see a lot of stocks really beaten up, right? If you were trying to do a scanning on days over here, you will see a lot of stocks actually being beaten up. So you know what? Let's flip the theory. So now instead of finding stocks just stretched on the downside, let's find stock which is actually on the upside, right? So using the same theory on here with the average true range of 75 cents or more. Now I want to find stock which is overbought. Now, you know what? When people talk about overbought, they get a bit scared. They might think that, hey, you know what? If stocks is overbought, then chances are it might have a snapback. But if you take a look at the parameters, I'm looking at overbought over 60. Right, I'll show you what this really means. Right. Okay, so let's say I pull up a stock over here, OZK. Right. If you look on this stock OZK, put on interactive on here. So this stock is pretty overstretched, right? I mean, this one with RSI, this one is sitting at 85.39. Now that's a pretty high, pretty high levels on here, right? If you want to find really strong stocks, you can do the same theory on here, which is the price above the 200-day moving average, price above the 50-day moving average, price above the 20-day moving average. So you will find stocks which is over all these long-term moving averages. I think this STNG was more of a buyout. So let's take a look on this Crown, right? Crown is above the 200-day, above the 50, above the 20. So it's a very, very strong stock. What you also see on here with RSI over here is at 75. So 75 is not really an extreme number. If you find something over 90, then you know what, there's a higher potential for a snapback. But right now is not really too high of a number. Right? So if you want to go and find names, you can quickly go and scan through. So this is a buyout, right? There's nothing for you to see. For example, I'll show you Domo. Today is Friday, right? If you did the scan yesterday, you would have found the same name, right? Because it is this name Domo is following the criteria that we have. The one criteria we have is stocks only, value, average volume over 300,000. So over here, average volume is over 300,000. You also want to find stocks which is above the 200, the 50, the 20 with ATR over 7.75 and RSI over 60. Right, so you have this stock which is actually fulfilling all your criteria. So if you had this stock on scan, if you're trying to find stocks to trade for Friday, if you try to do this on Thursday, you will find this stock, and today it had this nice continuation move. Right, so that's how you want to find stocks in terms of the upside. Same thing if you want to see these SAFM, it is above the short-term moving averages, and the RSI is above 60, right? So if it's above 60 and is below 90, which means it still has room to actually go, right? If you see RSI over 90, right, then possibly you might want to take a short idea on it. Right, so I'll show you another name. So I mentioned in terms of finding stocks which is beaten up and you're trying to buy on the dips, or the other one is the stock has gone up and now it retraces and you want to buy it again. Now let's find stocks which is really overbought. So really overbought is over 90. So you don't really find much over here. So what it really means, if just by a quick glance on here, is a lot of stocks are neither a lot of them are oversold, neither are they overbought, right? So what it really means is the most of the market is actually within the parameters of sideways action. So just based on those scans, I figure out, you know what, I know where the market is sitting at, right? It's neither at the two extremes, and neither as too low. So that's what, if you take a look on the indices, right, the Dow Jones, the S&P, the Nasdaq, it is sitting in the middle, right? It's not too overstretched on the downside. It's not too stretched over on the upside. Now, indices are made of what? Indices are made of stocks, right? So that's one of the reasons why when you try to find stocks overbought, you don't find a whole bunch other than this bought out name. Or if you try to see oversold, you don't see a lot either, right? If you do over 80, even over too stretched on the upside, you don't see a lot either, right? Over 70, yeah, possibly you might find over 70, but over 70 also has a lot of potential to actually keep on going up, right? So given the fact that, you know what, how the markets are, so you can, if you do not want to take a look at where the markets are just based on the scan that I just did, I can quickly understand without looking at the markets of where the indices are, and depending on how you want to trade. Now you understand that, you know what, we are going to be a sideways market, right? Because there's nothing which is too oversold, there's nothing that's too overbought. So it means most of this, and with 80 I showed you, there's not much on there. Under 20, not much on there either, right? Because if you do same theory, flip it on the downside, there's nothing much down there. So just by looking at the stocks, you know that, you know, by looking at the scan, you know the market is moving sideways. So it's more going to be a range bound trade, right? It's more going to be a range bound trade. Not a lot of breakouts are really going to work. Not a lot of breakdowns are really going to work, because you are in that scenario. If you throw on the weekly chart, you can see, you know what, we are in a sideways chop, right? If you throw on the monthly, it's easier even to see, right? So 2018 and starting on 2019 on a sideways chop, and using the scans, I've showed you those ones as well. But generally, you know what, the market is not working on a sideways chop. You will find really some strong names, right? As I mentioned over here. So these are the scans, how you can go and use Finviz to go and find stocks either which is overstretched on the downside or overstretched on the upside, or if you want to trade in the direction of the trend, those are the scans that you can use. Any questions, let me know. And please do like and subscribe to the videos. Gonna make me more motivated to make more videos for you guys. Have a good one.